Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. I'd like to welcome you to my tutorial on installing the RenderX XEP software on the Mac OS X operating system for use with the Oxygen XML editor. So I'm recording this in the spring of 2016, and I've got a pretty well up-to-date copy of Mac OS X. I've got OS X El Capitan version 10.11.4. So I'll give you some indication of how current my operating system is. I'm recording this for my XML for Libraries class, but I'm thinking that it's going to have a longer life than that. And it's going to be on YouTube, so some people may find their way who are not in one of my classes at all. I just want you to know that I'm assuming that you have the Oxygen XML editor and you have it installed, which probably means you have a license for it, because the students in my class do, and that you have access to the XEP print formatting software from RenderX, and that you have a license for that because the students in my class do as part of the class. You probably could go find evaluation copies of either, and but that's going to be up to you. Okay? So let's take a look at what we have here. First of all, we have the Oxygen XML editor, so I'm going to fire that up. And what I want to demonstrate is that we do not have the XEP print formatting engine installed yet. Okay? Okay, so in the Mac version of Oxygen, we get to preferences by clicking up here on the menu where it says Oxygen XML Editor in bold, and then picking Preferences. And this is an XML preference, so we're going to expand that. And we're going to expand XSLT FOX query, because this is FO. And then we're going to click on the line for FO processors, because we're going to pick the FO processor. And you'll see over here on the right that the radio button says that we want to use the built-in Apache FOP processor. And the good thing about FOP is it's free, because it's part of the Apache family of projects. The bad thing is that it doesn't really format things the way that I would like them. So I prefer the RenderX XEP formatter, and I've made arrangements for us to be able to use it in my course. Now, down here below are places where we can install other FO processors. And down below the window, we see a handy link for add XEP FO processor. We're going to point to an executable file, and we have to browse to do it. And as you can see, this hasn't been done because when you finish this, there's a line here that shows that XEP has been installed as an external FO processor. So not installed yet. Okay, we're going to cancel that. And we're going to close Oxygen just for now. And so we're going to need some software to install. So where do we find that? Well, the students in my class for the current semester are going to find it on the D2L system. Okay? This is a license that not everybody has access to, so it's got to be somewhere that you need to sign in to get it. In subsequent semesters, I'll point students to another place, if not D2L, well, they'll find this information. But for right now, we're going to log on to good old D2L. And I'm going to bring up my little home page. And I'm going to go to D2L and log in with my ID and my password. And I'm going to go down to our class XML for libraries. And under our content link, I have a section for RenderX XEP software. So when that's highlighted, you see the two resources that I have here. One is a PDF that has the download instructions. It's an email that I got from one of the managers at RenderX. And the other is an XML document that is the license. So I want to download them both. So one at a time, I want to pick download and then save file. Okay, and then do that for the license as well. Download and pick save file. Okay, and they should be in downloads. So as of right now, I should have what I want. Okay. Now, as long as we have a browser up, let's just go to the RenderX website. So render, just the letter x.com. And, I don't know how I didn't actually go to the site, but here I'm at the site. And I just want to point out that here there's, this is the main page of their site. I really like these guys. I've been working with them for about, more than 10 years. They've been helping me out by giving me license for my students to use during my courses. I really like their product. I also like their support. Their support is done mainly through an email list. Let's see if we click on support. Well, they have a knowledge base, and then you have mailing lists. The big one that I use is XEP support, a really good list, monitored by their employees and the movers and shakers in XSLFO as well. So a great place to get advice about the product and about XSLFO. But there's a download link, which is what I came here to show you. And the default download link has a software request form for a trial version. Well, we have a license, so we're not doing this. So I'm going to close this, and when we come back, we're going to come back to a close page to this, but it's going to be the download page for software updates. So I'm just going to close the browser a minute here, and let's open up the Finder and go to Downloads. And the last two things I downloaded, one is the license file, license.xml, and the other is the PDF of the email. So I'm going to double click on the PDF and open that. And let's expand it a bit. This is an email that I got from my friend Kevin Brown, who's been very helpful over the years. One of the persons who actually posts to the support mailing list. So a very knowledgeable guy as well as a helpful guy. And he says that we should go to this link here for on renderx.com/download/updates.html. So I'm just going to click on that. And it's going to fire up Safari. And as you can see, we are on a page that's pretty close to the download page we saw before, but it's different. It says update current software. That's what we want. So the first thing we need to do is point it to our license file. Well, you know what? We just downloaded that. Very good. So click on the Choose File button. Navigate to Downloads. Highlight license.xml. And click Choose. And we're set. Now we just have to click on the Update button. So we click on Update, and we wait for the download to start. And with the animation, we see that the download has started. And we're getting the download down here, which is what we need. Okay, good. All right. I'm going to close the browser for now. I'm going to close that PDF. Now, depending upon how you have your settings set for OS X, either your download file has already been unzipped automatically. I think that's how it comes out of the box, but you can turn that off. So here I haven't turned that off, so this is automatically unzipped. If you have a zip file, then you're going to have to right click and uncompress it, and then that's going to result in the situation where I am now, where I have this XEP 4 directory. So let's just open the XEP4 directory or folder, and we see we have a couple of things. The most interesting to me is the readme.txt. Sometimes they're boring, but they often have some interesting things. So we talk about installation. This is down in item 2. And I want to point out the first thing it says is that you need Java installed on your computer. And you might say, well, I must have Java installed on my Mac because I'm running the Oxygen XML editor, and that's a Java-based application. But if you followed the instructions I gave you, you probably downloaded a version that came with an internal Java distribution. And so you might have that on your computer, and it might be used by Oxygen, but just not generally available to other programs. So how can I tell if I have Java properly installed? Well, we want to open up a terminal so we can work at the command line. Now, the easiest way for me to find that is to go to this launch pad down here on the dock. So go to the launch pad, and then go over to the category Other. Click on that. And a terminal is a program that's one of the options here. Click on Terminal. And now we're going to open up a command line prompt window. And the way that you check to see if you have Java installed, it's the same at the command line on both Windows and Mac, and Linux as well. You type in, Java space -version. And it helps to have your fingers on the right keys so you actually do type version. And then carriage return for enter. And you'll see here that I've got a pretty recent version, Java 1.8. And I've got to say that I just installed this yesterday afternoon because on this particular virtual machine, the only thing that I had done was to install the Oxygen XML editor, and I didn't have a proper standalone installation for Java. So I installed this yesterday in preparation for this tutorial this morning. Where do you go to do that? Well, we're not going to do it now. It's already been done. But you go to java.oracle.com, and what you're looking for is Java SE, which is the Java Standard Edition. And there's a couple of versions that you can install, but I always say to install the JDK. That has all the bits in it, even the developer bits, and that's a good one to install. So when you've done that, how do you test that that worked? Well, the way that we just did, you type in Java space hyphen version, and then you see what version of Java you have. If you don't have Java, it's going to say Java command not recognized, something like that. So to continue on from here, you want to be getting the response back that we just saw. Okay. So where are we? Well, I'm going to leave this terminal window open because we're going to do the installation from the terminal window. But let's go back to the README and see what it says to do. Well, it says that we want to run a setup from a jar file. Well, that's one of the files that we have in that XEP4 directory, and it happens to be called setup-4.24-2015-09-25.jar, which is a Java archive file, and we're going to use the Java command, which is the name of the Java virtual machine, and we're going to use the -jar option to say run a jar file, and that's going to be our installer. Okay. So that's going to take care of about everything that I want to do here. Now, in order to do that, I typically want to be in the directory where this file is. Well, let's go back to the Finder and see where that file is. Well, it's in a directory called XEP4, which is within my downloads. Okay, so let's find out how to navigate to that in the terminal window. So, at the command line, if you want to see the directory that you're in, you want to see the details in it, you do an ls. So we see that we're in a directory that has documents, downloads. Oh, great. So we want to change it to the downloads directory. So change directory cd space downloads. Okay. And now let's do an ls again. Okay. And we can see that we have a bunch of directories here. One is called XEP-4. And we already happen to know that that's what we just brought down. So we want to make that our current directory. So how do we do that? cd space XEP-4 carriage return. Okay. And we can see from the command prompt there that we are in the XEP4 directory. So let's look at what's in it, ls. And oh, just as we anticipate, our setup 4.24.jar file is there. Okay. So we could type in the command, we could try to remember the command that is going to run this, or I'm going to do this the lazy way. I'm going to go back to my text editor, and the command that I want is right here. So I'm just going to highlight it, and I'm going to right click on it and copy. And now I'm going to go back to my terminal window, and I'm going to click on the little gray square that's right after the command prompt. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say paste. And that's like typing in that command. And now all I have to do is do a carriage return. So I ran the carriage return, and there it is. The installer, which is a Java program itself, has come up. Well, that's great. So let's look at where it wants to install XEP. It wants to put it in /users/trainerk/XEP, that's fine by me. And it wants to find the license file. Now, I want to remind you that the license file is in downloads. Now, on my machine, the experience that I have in using the browse function here to get me pointed at the right directory has been pretty bad. Okay, so maybe you'll do better. But I click on browse, okay, and I see, oh, downloads. Let's click on that, and nothing happens. Okay, I double clicked on it, nothing happens. So let me do choose. Well, it added downloads to this path, but it didn't go any farther. Okay, let's hit browse again. Now we see downloads again. I'm kind of stuck in a bad spot, so I'm going to cancel out of this. And I just happen to know that I've got most of the path that I need for the file name. I just want to right click in that box where you type in the file name, put another slash, and then just simply type license.xml. license.xml. So even though that browse to the file function seems to be kind of broken in this when it's working with this version of the OS, I'm pointing at it properly now. And now when I click the install button, it says the installation was successful. The GNU free font package is not installed, which I don't care because we don't use that in my class. So we're going to finish, and we're all set. So we've got stuff installed pretty well. We're not going to use the terminal window anymore, so I'm going to close that. We're pretty well for the README text. I'm going to close that. Okay. Let's see if I can find the installation. Okay. Now, one of the ways I can find it is I can click on this device's Macintosh HD. Okay, and then I'm going to go down under users and then KTrainer. So users, sorry, trainer K and XEP. But what if I couldn't find that? How can I go find my way? I have a problem on, when I'm not in my virtual machine, that I can't really do it that easily on my Mac proper. Well, I can go up to the menu and click on Go, and then come down to the bottom and pick Go to Folder. And the top level directory is just a right slash. So that's the root directory. Go to that, click on the Go button. And now you see the very top of the file system. And there's users. Double click on that. There's my name. I'm the user, Trainer K. There's XEP. And there we are, just where we want. So that's good. So the file that we're going to want to point at when we're doing the execution is this XEP Unix executable. See if we can get a little more space there. Well, you have to trust me, it says Unix executable there somewhere. Perhaps, there it is. Okay, so that's what we want since we're in a Linux-like operating system, which is what OS X is. So that's the thing, that's the file we're going to point to with the install. Now, I'm thinking ahead here. We're going to want to test it after we install it. And we have these example files up here, and I just want to get them to a more convenient spot. So I'm going to highlight those, right-click and say copy. And where am I going to put them? I'm going to put the copy of the examples subdirectory right into my documents directory. Don't have much there in my virtual machine. Okay, and so I have them there where they're going to be handy after we get the install done. Okay, that being done, So we've installed the XEP software onto the Mac, but we've not hooked it up with the Oxygen XML editor yet. So let's fire up the Oxygen XML editor. Okay, and let's go back to preferences. So again, on the Mac, we click on the in the menu the bold name of the app, Oxygen XML editor, and then preferences. Now we're going to come down again within XML, within XSL FO X query. We're going to click on FO processors. That gets us to the tab. Okay. And what we want to do is to install an external FO processor, but there's a special feature for the XEP FO processor. It's so popular. So let's go over to the Browse button. Okay. And again, we've got to find our way to the software, which again, I went to Macintosh HD, users, trainer K, XEP, and we want this XEP file. Okay, this has like a picture of maybe a command line prompt window or something like that, and the name is XEP. Okay, and we're gonna click on open, and that is it. So we now see in the list of external FO processors, we see XEP. We can click on OK, and we're done. Okay, well, now we're trusting that this works. It's always best to do a test, right? So let's, for right now, I'm going to close the Oxygen XML editor with a quit, have it fully closed. And let's go back and go to the Finder, and let's go find those example files. Okay, so I'm going to go to Documents, Examples, and the example that I really like is in a subdirectory called Hammer. And what we're doing is we're creating a user manual for a hammer. Now this is done with some humor in mind. Most of us know how to use a hammer without having a user manual, but it was an interesting little user manual. There are two files. There's hammer.xml, which has the content. There's hammer.xsl, which is a transformation which is going to pull the content out of hammer.xml and surround it with XSL FO tags. And we even have some images that are going to be used that are in this images subdirectory. So we have a box, a can, a hammer, a screw, a plank, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I have set up my machine such that when I double click on an XML document, it opens with the Oxygen XML application. And that is something that you can adjust in the preferences of Oxygen XML. If that's not working for you, you may have to right click and go to Open With. And if you don't have Oxygen, you might have to click on Other and search through your list of apps to do that. But for me, I just have to double click on hammer.xml, and it's going to fire up the Oxygen XML editor with a copy of the XML content document. And as you can see, let's see, the title is IDM Universal Hammer, Operation Manual, International Destruction Machines Corp. So this is a bit of there's a lot of humor in here, but here we have the content that's going to go into the manual. Okay, let's also open that XSL transformation file. Okay. And it's called hammer.xsl. And I just want to point out that the standard extension for XSLT files is XSL, even though we say XSLT. So that's why we're going to click on Hammer XSL. And here we have a transformation. And if you're familiar with those yet, you'll see that we have an XSL style sheet as our root element in the XML document. And then we have some templates. And what's interesting is you see in a lot of the templates that the elements that we are surrounding the text with are from the XSL FO a tag set. Here's a very common one, FO block. Okay, so we've got the two files that we need. Now we have to put together the right transformation scenario. Now I always find it easiest to be focused on the content document, which in this case is hammer.xml, when I build the scenario. So we don't have one yet. Now how do we build a scenario? Well, let's go to the lower of the two toolbars, and I'm going to click on this wrench with a little play arrow, configure transformation scenarios. I'm going to click on that. We'll see, oh, we don't have any, so we're going to have to create a new one. So create a new one, and the kind that we want is XML transformation with XSLT. Okay, that looks good. And you'll see here that we have a 3-tab dialog to fill out. We have the XSLT options, then there's going to be a tab for FO processor options, and then there's a tab for output options. Okay, so here we are at XSLT. We have to point it to the XML document, which is already there. This is a macro expression that points at the current file. That's good. So let's go down and pick a file for the XSL. And we do, and we want Hammer XSL, so that's good. Highlight that. Click on Open. Okay, and the only thing that I don't like is we have a whole path expression in front of the file name, and that makes this a little bit, how can I say, it makes it less portable in a lot of ways. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to click, and I'm going to get rid of the path expression in front of the file name. So we just have the file name. And the rules are, if you have a XML content document and you have an XSL transformation style sheet, and they're in the same the same directory, well, then you don't need any path expressions on either of these. If you're pointing to the right XML document and the style sheet is in the same directory, you don't need a path name. Okay, so I've got those two done. One other thing I want to do here is I want to pick the right transformation engine. Down here where it says transformer, the default is Saxon 6.5.5. A lot of times I use some of the XSLT 2.0 capabilities, and that's not supported by Saxon 6.5.5. So I take the drop down, and I usually pick Saxon PE 9.6.07 or whatever PE version we have. Okay. And that's all that we need to do on the XSLT tab. Again, we picked the XML document, we picked the XSL document, and then we changed the transformer to be the right version of Saxon. So let's go to the tab for FO processor. And a couple things to be done here. One, there's a checkbox, perform FO processing. Okay. Now, the method we want is we want to create a PDF. That's great. That's what you typically want. The processor, oh, it's the default Apache FOP. Well, let's take the drop down and see if we can pick XEP. Yep, there it is. It is properly installed. Okay, so we know it. Now, you might want to think, okay, click on OK. Well, don't, because we need to set the third tab, the Output tab. So let's go over to the Output tab. Okay. And we're going to want to save this as a typical trick is to use the current file name from the XML input file, and you make the output file at .pdf. So how do you get the current file name? Well, this first little icon here with the ... at the bottom, if you go down, I think the fourth option is this $, curly braces CFN. That's the current file name without an extension. So click that, you get that macro expression. Then add on the end .pdf. So it's going to create a file with a PDF extension and the current file name in the same directory that we're in. And then one last thing, click the checkbox for Open in Browser Systems application. It's going to open it in the program that it uses to open PDFs. Okay, looks good. Now let's click on OK. So now we have a transformation scenario named Hammer. If you don't give it a name, it picks the name of one of those two files. I forget which one. They were both called Hammer. And then to run it, you click Apply Associated. Apply Associated. I'll watch the bottom half of the screen as it runs. Runs pretty darn quick. So now we have a PDF that we're going to look through. It has a title page, sort of front matter page, and here is the content, including a table of contents and then all the sections. This is a 2-column layout. It's got graphic figures as well, and it goes on for a couple of pages, and then we come to the end. Okay, so we've got this installed the right way. Now, it's typical that when you're working with transformations, you work with them until you have them right. And usually you're finding that maybe some of the content you have in your XML document needs to be changed. So you'll go back to that and you'll make some changes and you'll save. And then sometimes you realize that your style sheet needs to be changed. So you'll go back to that and you'll make some changes and you'll save that. So what do you do then? Well, always click on the XML content document to focus on that, because our transformation is assuming that that's what we're on when we start. And we can go back to the wrench and play button icon, and we see that, oh, it assumes that we want to run this hammer transformation scenario again. Okay, that's good. Apply associated. If we wanted to run a different one, we could uncheck this and check that. If you check multiple, it will run all the ones that you check. And then when you click on apply associated, it's going to run it. Okay? And even that's a little too much work when you're making a little change here, a little change there. So once you've run it one time, as long as you are focused on, again, the XML content document, if you want to run the last transformation scenario that you just did, the big red play button does, it applies the last transformation scenario again. We're just going to click on it, and off it goes. So that's about it. We've shown how to get XEP installed on the operating system, how to configure the Oxygen XML editor to work with XEP, and then we've even done one of the example projects to prove to ourselves that it's properly installed. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye until next time. Bye-bye.